I'm sure you've seen the news. There's a massive childcare shortage due to COVID-19, and now more than ever, nannies are in the driver's seat. There are more opportunities than ever before for professional nannies, and nanny salaries are higher than ever. At least where I live, salaries have gone up upwards of $10 an hour for a professional, experienced nanny. So what does that mean for you in negotiating your contract? It means that you have the opportunity to be a professional nanny and negotiate a contract that's fair and equitable for both you and the parents. If we haven't met before, I'm Michelle Kelsey, founder of the Nanny Solution by Nannies on Call. Each Saturday, I bring you new videos to educate and inspire you to get better jobs and make more money. Also now, we have a series on Wednesdays, so if you know any families, feel free to refer them over to our videos on Wednesday. Of course, they'll be helpful for nannies to watch as well. Let's dive right into the contract. You know me, I like to get the negative things out of the way first. So let's have a look at a few of the maybe negative or things nannies are doing wrong or are hurting them when negotiating their contract. Number one, try and leave the negative experiences you've had behind you. If you've been a nanny for any length of time, you've likely had a bad experience. Whether it's that the family didn't let you take vacation, that you worked when you were sick, that you worked overtime and weren't paid, whatever the situation is, try and leave that behind you now. This is a new family, and give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to treat you fairly and professionally. Number two is know your worth. We've talked about it a lot in the past, and I'll put the video up there about know your worth if you haven't seen that yet. If the job is advertised at $25 to $35 an hour and you're a new nanny, going in at $35 an hour makes you look bad. This is not going to help you in your negotiation. You need to start lower and work your way up. So part of the negotiation might be that you start at 25 and after you're there for a year, you get a raise or a $2 an hour raise, and that's how you start making more money. Number three of the mistakes we've seen is if a job's posted, let's just say $25 to $32 an hour, you apply for the job, the family is interested in you, and then when you start the contract negotiation, your rate is $35 an hour. That is outside of the range of what was posted. That's something that should have been discussed at the interview if you feel that the hours are longer, the job expectations are higher, whatever it is that pushes you up. But there's no point in waiting for the offer and then trying to negotiate 35. Families have worked out their budgets and they need to stay within that range so they can afford to pay the extra things like overtime or taxes or sick days or backup care for when you're on vacation. So respect the fact that this family has a range and that's their budget. And lastly, for the mistakes, number four is asking for more once you see where the family lives. So at the agency, we post a range. The family's willing to pay 25 to 35, and a nanny will come in and say, I would do that job as it's described for $30 an hour. Then they interview with the family, see their home, find out they have a private jet, find out they have a large super yacht, whatever it is, and then they bump their salary to 35. Your experience and the job description are what determines how much the job is worth, not how wealthy the family is. A lot of wealthy families feel that we've talked to that once the nannies meet them, they jack their rate up. Unless something has changed after the interview that you've learned is there's more job expectations or there's driving or there's something that you didn't know about that would raise your rate, raising your rate after the interview is not acceptable. Just remember, negotiating is a compromise and money is not everything. If you can negotiate with a family and get the things that are important to you, you might have to let go of a few other things and compromise. That's what the negotiation is all about. Now I'm going to go into each part of the work agreement and what you need to think about going into the negotiation. Your work schedule. When negotiating your contract, you want to know exactly the hours you're working. You want to know, are you working 9 to 5, which is a regular work day, or working 10 to 6, which includes overtime? This is where knowing your employment standards laws in your area is important. For example, I live in Vancouver, and in Vancouver, anything over 40 hours a week is overtime. But if you go to Ontario, which is still in Canada, it's 44 hours. So knowing where overtime starts is really important, and these are things you need to research and you need to know going into the negotiation. Another big thing, which we've done a whole video on, is guaranteed hours. This should go in this section as well. It's standard in the nanny field. If you want to learn more, you can look up there, but that's definitely something I would suggest you negotiate in your contract. Job description. This is where you can talk to the parents about everything you need to do in your job and be very specific. This is a big part of the negotiation, because if you're not comfortable cleaning the kitchen or taking out the garbage or doing the family's laundry, that needs to be discussed now. Make sure you have a list of all the things you're willing to do and all the things you're not willing to do, so you can be really clear. Next would be compensation. Of course, this is probably the biggest thing for nannies to negotiate in their contract. And hopefully before you get to the contract stage, you have an idea of what the family's willing to pay and what they've budgeted. Going into the contract negotiation, you should already have a good idea of what you're going to charge for this job and the job description as they've laid it out in the interview phase, and have an understanding of what the family's budget is. Vacation. This is another huge one for nannies. I see all over the job boards, and we hear from nannies all the time. They can't go on vacation because the family needs them, or the family won't let them, or they have to go on vacation at the same time as the family. All of these things need to be determined at the negotiation phase. Remember to negotiate things like, when can you take vacation? Can you take 2 weeks together, or do you have to take 1 week and 1 week? Do you need to take 1 week at the same time as the family and 1 week is your own choosing? Is the family accountants, teachers, lawyers, whatever they are? Do they have a busy time? Is that a blacked out period, which is common? You can't take it during tax season. You can't take vacation at that time. And what is the family's plan B? You can ask them, what do they plan to do when you go on vacation? How will they handle that? This will help to get them thinking about a solution before you ask for vacation. Statutory holidays. You want to list out in your contract every statutory holiday that is going to come up during the year. There should be no question about what days you're working and if you need to work that day. They should all be listed out. Part of the negotiation is, if they need you to work on stat holidays because the parents work, will you be paid time and a half? What will be the compensation? Will you be given other days off? How does that fit in with the laws where you live? Sick days. This is a huge one. Another big topic that needs to be discussed when negotiating your contract. How many sick days per year are you entitled to? I know we're talking during the time of COVID, so there is another section that can be COVID related. This, we're just talking about stomach aches, flus, regular things. How many sick days are you entitled to? Nannies tend to get sick more often when working with children because they're around these children's snotty noses and the sicknesses they're bringing from daycare or school or wherever, the playground. Just make sure there is something in there that outlines how many sick days you can take and what that looks like when you take them. Expenses. How will this be handled? Will they be giving you a credit card that's used for expenses when you're out with the kids? Will there be an envelope of cash? How will you track your expenses and report to them? Do you need to ask them before you spend any of the money? This should all be laid out and negotiated, and you can help the family based on what you've done in the past and what has worked for you. Driving at your nanny job. Will you need to be driving for this job? Will you be using your car or the family's car? How will insurance be handled? How will the car seats be handled? But figuring out all of the details around vehicles, car seats, how much you'll be driving is something to negotiate when you're setting up your contract. Will you be traveling with the family? If you travel with the family, there should be something in your contract that outlines how much are they paying for overnights, how much are they paying when you travel, what expenses are covered, what's the expectation of you, and are you required to travel with them, or is this an offer that they give you when they travel? Negotiating is a compromise, and if the family can't afford your rate, but you really like them, money isn't everything. Maybe you can negotiate on sick days, vacation days, personal time off. Maybe they'll pay for your cell phone. Instead of always focusing on their money, maybe there are other things that are a benefit to you. I don't have a contract to share with you, but I know two people who have amazing ones. Nanny Council has one, and A to Z Nanny Contracts is the other one. I'll link both below, and you can check them out if you want help setting up your contract. It will help you when you're negotiating the contract to know all the things you need to cover and agree to before starting with the family. Good luck with your negotiations, and be sure to come back and tell us how it goes. We'll see you next Saturday. Bye.